Today we're talking all about muscle recovery. Here we go. Hi, I'm Jessica Ballant, a physical therapist and Pilates teacher, and I want to bring science-based knowledge, empathy, courage, support, love, and hopefully some fun to the journeys we have with our bodies. There is hope and strength in your body, and my goal is to help you find it. Hi, welcome back to Meet Your Body. I, as always, love having you here. I actually have an empty house, which sounds like it shouldn't be like super exciting or rare, but it is pretty rare actually. So my husband and I both work from home, and yes, during the day, both kids are at school. So that's when I get my work done. Like I've talked a lot over on Instagram. Some of you probably heard I have 2 days. Every day is 2 days. Drop the kids off at school and my first day starts, and that's like my work day. So I just feel like I have a ticking clock in my head. Like I have a list always. If you listen to last episode about how I stay organized, you kind of know the lists and the process that I go through. So I have my to-do list for the day, and I get through that as much as I possibly can. And then we wrap up, and my husband and I the night before we have talked about who's doing which drop off, pick up. We have 2 different schools. We have different activities. So we always have that planned out. But no matter what, my day ends at 2:30 and that's it. My work day is done at 2:30 and then my second day starts. So my second day is putting my mom hat back on, getting the bag ready with wherever I'm going with either child or both children, and the snacks and the waters and everything that need to happen, and the games and everything, and then going on to that. And that's my second day. And then coming home, doing homework and making dinner, cleaning up, having snuggle time, maybe playing games, just depends on what the evening brings. But I always stop work at 2:30, and generally I don't do more work the rest of the day. There's always stuff I could do, but I've just learned I don't multitask well when it comes to that. I focus on work during the day, and then I focus on the kids when they're back from school. And so anyway, I do have time during the day, and sometimes I will record a podcast then, but my husband and I both work from home, so it's always kind of just deciding who is going where. And we both have our own offices, but we've been in this house for 4 months now. And I still don't have doors on my office because we had to order some special doors that we're waiting on. And so I always am kind of like, okay, where are you going to be? I have to record or I have to film. So I'm always working around that. So all that to say that it is the afternoon. So it's in the middle of my second day. But both kids have activities right now. And my husband had to go somewhere to pick one of the children up. And I had this block of time in the afternoon where the house is empty, where I can talk to you. So that was a long way to say I'm so excited to be sitting here talking to you. And I'm really excited about this episode today. I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to tell you kind of the context around where this came from in my own life. But really, I've been really in it with muscle recovery since June. And it is October right now of 2024. So since June. So what we're looking at like 4 months. And so I have, again, over on Instagram, I've talked here and there about it, and probably in a few of my email newsletters. So definitely make sure, if you want to hear things in real time as I'm experiencing them, definitely make sure you're following on Instagram, because I'll talk about things in stories there. But I've talked a little about muscle recovery and kind of the journey I've been on. And so I finally wanted to put it all in one place. So today we are talking about muscle recovery. So what is it? Like, what does that actually mean? When might you need to do it, or why is it important? When does it kind of come into play with your body and in general? But definitely today is going to be talking about you learning about your own body, because it's a little different for all of us. And then I'll tell you again context around my own story with this. And then also we'll talk about the things, both as a physical therapist and then also for myself personally, the things that I have found that help the most with muscle recovery. So here we go. So first, let's just chat about what muscle recovery is, like what that actually means. And to talk about that, we need to talk about what happens to our muscles when we move and work out. And so I really want to impart this knowledge and have you take in the point that we don't necessarily need muscle recovery after every type of movement we do, okay? Today, this kind of muscle recovery that I'm talking about is really kind of specific to intense exercise and or lifting weights that tends to be intense or challenging. Now, the key here is I can't define that because it's different for all of us. 5-pound weights might be intense for you right now, okay? That might be that challenging, intense exercise. For someone else, it's going to be maybe 45 to 50-pound weights. For some people, it's going to be like that first bike ride after an injury. For other people, it's going to be running a marathon. Like, we're all a little different when it comes to what defines an intense exercise or intense effort, an intense or challenging weightlifting workout. Okay, so I can't define that for you. So that's where it comes in that you need to kind of start to get this information around yourself and what that means for you. But when we do that kind of exercise, okay, and again, it's going to be different for all of us, but when you do that kind of exercise, your muscles do break down a little bit. I mean, that is actually a part of the process. When you are trying to find hypertrophy in your muscles, when you're trying to build muscle mass, what happens is when you're lifting kind of heavier weights, when that challenge happens, and then when that muscle soreness happens the next day, there's actually a little bit of breaking of the muscle fibers, and then they heal again, and they should heal in a very nice, healthy way, building our strength, and we get back to it, okay? And so that kind of muscle soreness is actually very common and normal. We call it DOMS. It's called delayed onset of muscle soreness. It happens usually about 24 hours after you work out, and it lasts around like an average of 48 hours. That is very normal soreness that would happen, okay? It happens, again, about like 12 to 24 hours after is when you'll start feeling it, and it only lasts about 48 hours. And then it starts to get better and go away. So I have talked before, and I have some YouTube videos about like normal muscle soreness, whether muscle soreness is normal and common, and I'll link that below. But again, that's kind of normally what would happen with a challenging workout, right? Now, you can hear how, you might be thinking, okay, well, some workouts don't even make me sore. And again, if you're wondering if you should or shouldn't be sore, that's in air quotes, watch my YouTube video. Again, I'll link it below. But not all workouts need to or are meant to cause soreness because we have this whole other variety of movement. And that's why you'll hear me say movement a lot, because movement is what's important. You're moving your body. So possibly mobility workouts, your walks out in the sun, things like that. Some of your Pilates even videos, they aren't going to cause this kind of muscle soreness, and that's okay. All right, you don't need to feel, and I wouldn't even want you to feel this kind of muscle soreness after every workout. So again, we're not going to get into all of that today, but keep that in mind. So the muscle recovery, though, comes into play and is important for those days that you're doing that challenging or intensive workout. For me right now, I do those maybe two times a week at least on my weightlifting workouts. And then possibly a third one, just depending on the week and the day. The rest, I'm not saying they aren't work. They are. I'm not just taking rest days. I'm saying that I use those days for more, again, of things I'm either used to or that aren't going to cause such intense effort, because that's what works for my body, okay? And so this is where I want to give you some context too. So we talked about like what is causing kind of that to happen in your muscles, that you're going to need recovery. And then now let me tell you what recovery is. And then, like I said, I'm going to give you context into kind of my body and where I'm coming from with this. So on those challenging and intensive workouts, okay, that's different for everyone, that your muscles do need recovery. Now, what does that mean, or what does that look like? Muscle recovery is the process of repairing and rebuilding muscle tissue after exercise. Okay, and it's an important part of the exercise process. We actually need muscle recovery. It allows you to build muscle. You actually will come back stronger. Okay, it will improve your performance. It can help your health. It helps prevent injury when you allow your muscles to recover. So we need it, again, in order to heal. We need it in order to keep exercising. We need it in order to prevent injury and all of those things. So that's why we need muscle recovery. And just one more time, I want to emphasize the point that this isn't necessarily after every workout. I don't want you to come away from this saying, okay, well, I can only work out 2 days a week because I need to recover all the other days. No, that is not necessarily true, right? If you follow like a plan that I kind of follow or we talk about in Unlimited, we are moving 6 days a week. We take one full day actually as a rest day. But the other days are built in such a way that you are automatically giving your muscles recovery time while doing another workout. And that's what can happen many, many times. We're going to get into that a little bit later today. But please know that muscle recovery should in some way be built into your workout plan and your movement plan and your health plan if you are doing kind of that challenging or more intensive kind of routine. So let me backtrack and tell you why this is on my mind so much right now. So first off, I'm going to go back a very long time. I am 46 years old. And I remember like some of my earliest memories from a very young age are waking up in the middle of the night with intense muscle aches. And it was mostly for me in my thighs. It tended to be in my thighs. And it would move maybe into my calves or my hamstrings or my hips. And this would happen often. And it was normal for me. I'm in deep muscle aches and people just said, oh, growing pains, it's normal. My mom gave me Advil a lot as a kid because she's like, this will help. And it did. But that kind of, I think that went into like repressed memories. Like I just kind of didn't think about it until the past 5, even 10 years when it has come up again. And it didn't like completely go away and then come back. I just feel like it's gotten more common maybe again for me in the past possibly 5 to 10 years that I would get these deep muscle aches that I couldn't do anything about. And it's worse at night. And I thought, oh yeah, I remember having those as a kid. And along the way, like in the past 10 years, I have, in addition to my endometriosis that was diagnosed however long ago now, 20 years maybe, which acts as an autoimmune disease, I realized I have hypermobility. I'm on the hypermobility spectrum, which goes hand in hand with endometriosis, which goes hand in hand with joint pain and muscle pain. And all of that started to make sense to me. Okay, it all started to kind of come together. Why possibly I was having those deep muscle aches even as a kid, and why I seemed to be hyper reactive to workouts that didn't bother other people. And even I remember being in my 20s. I remember the first time it happened. I was in a Pilates class and I had worked out a few times already that day because actually I worked in a gym and so I just couldn't get away from it. And I was in my young 20s. I mean, yeah, sure. I'll work out all day. No problem. What else am I going to do? I'm at my work. I'm thinking I could just recover because other people did. Okay. I looked around and I'm like, everybody else is doing it. No big deal. So I took a reformer class. And I remember doing a couple exercises on springs that seemed heavier than usual, but I was taking from another instructor and I was excited to do it and try it. And I thought, I can do this. And I very specifically remember that night feeling like, gosh, I'm a little bit sore in my lats. And the next day being so incredibly sore that it brought on other symptoms. I got a fever, I got chills, and I ended up getting sick. And I was like, this is so crazy, but I think it's linked to that workout because that really got my lats so sore. That was the first time I remember it happening. And then the next time it happened, probably a few years later, I thought, I think I know what this is. I mean, I didn't know why, but I just started to think, I guess I'm just weird because these kind of things, like this intense muscle soreness, one, I didn't feel like I was sore, like that workout I did warranted that kind of soreness. But also, it was just so strange to me that it was causing this inflammatory immune response. But I knew it was. Again, you listen to your body and you're gaining information from your body. Even though I hadn't heard of that before, I didn't see how it just didn't work into a pattern that I knew, but I knew it was happening. So I started to know that about myself. And again, once I kind of put that hypermobility piece into play, which if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I do have podcasts about that as well. And just for me, that's a part of my pattern, okay? But I do have podcast episodes about hypermobility. If for some reason some of this resonates, feel free to go back and listen to those. But so I started to just put all the pieces together, and it made sense to me. My body just is hyperreactive and can go into that inflammatory state. So I need to really work to manage that. As long as I can manage kind of that baseline inflammation, then I can do the challenging and intensive workouts on my own scale. I might not be able to go to all these classes everyone else can do because my body might just not handle that well, but I'll do challenging for myself. So I knew all that. Then let's fast forward to June of this year, 4 months ago. I had a mastectomy, my double mastectomy, 6 months earlier. So I was coming off a breast cancer diagnosis and a major surgery. And we had moved. So we moved in June. So we had months leading up to a major move, housework, carrying furniture. Our kids were graduating from kindergarten and 5th grade, and not a huge deal, but just a lot of school stuff going on. I wasn't sleeping, all of that stuff, all exciting stuff. But looking back, I just like, oh yeah, all stuff that was depleting. Well, the surgery wasn't exciting, but the move and the school stuff was. So my body was depleted, but I had started feeling stronger. Okay, 6 months out of surgery, I was feeling stronger. I was excited, and I had started to add weights back in. And so I was building up. I mean, you guys know me. I am very intentional. I do things, and I will tell all of you to do the same thing. I build up in a very intentional way. So it didn't feel crazy to me to be at the gym one day and do a leg workout. I will say I had a short block of time, so I went probably a little faster. Like maybe I didn't warm up, but I don't always warm up. I just try to go for a walk. So maybe it was a little bit shorter or faster. But that's it. And so I remember doing these leg presses. And yeah, I put a little bit heavier weight on than I had the week before, but that was normal. I was building up intentionally, so no big deal. And I felt okay afterwards. And then later that day, I thought, my legs are tired. I might have really worked them. The next day, so sore, so sore in my quads, so my thighs. Like, I mean, we've all done this. You know what I'm talking about. Like that sore where it's hard to get on and off the toilet and it's hard to walk downstairs. I mean, I was hanging onto the rail for dear life because walking downstairs was so sore. And then the next day was even more sore. And I thought, this is not good. This is not good at all. And it was radiating into my hips. And then I got sick. I lost my voice. I ended up getting a really bad cold. And so that was June. And that whole thing, like being sick then lasted, probably 2 weeks or so. But it really opened up this door into major body inflammation for me. And how do I know that? Because a lot of people asked, and I know, again, you're just gaining information. So this is years and years of me listening to my body and figuring out how I feel. So for me, it wasn't injury because like that specific soreness went away and it wasn't one thing that remained. It was aches everywhere and those deep joint aches that I didn't seem to be able to get rid of, and my hip flexor tightening up and low energy and tired. So I was still working out, but I couldn't do what I had been doing before. And so I just could feel it. I'm like, I'm just sore. Everything's just kind of sore and kind of hurts all the time, and I don't feel strong. And I realized I have got to get a handle on this muscle recovery piece because I want to keep lifting and I want to do it a little harder. Like I need to come back from this surgery. I mean, my grip is still weak. I want to be able to work my grip. I want to be able to work certain things at the gym. Like this is important to me, not for aesthetics, but for function, for life. I am not going to be stuck at just squatting 10 pounds. Like that's not functional for me. So I have got to figure out this muscle recovery. So that is really where I kind of dove into it a little more, but also it's more about committing to it. Because again, in my 20s, I didn't have to. Are you kidding? I didn't really have to at all. But I do now. I do. And I had to wrap my head around that. And I had to really commit to it to realize spending the time on muscle recovery is what's going to allow me to keep going and keep moving. So that's where I'm coming from today. And again, it's not that way for everyone. Okay. I am probably a unique case when it comes to the endometriosis, the hypermobility, and all of those things combined. There's a lot of, attached things that come with those diagnoses that I'm realizing that I understand about myself. So not everyone will respond that way. So don't hear me saying, oh, everybody needs to do all these steps that I did. I don't think you do. I really don't. I think, though, that we all need to have this understanding of how do I help my body heal. And I'm not talking about injuries. I am really just talking about your intense workouts because we need to be doing them. Okay. We just do, especially as aging women. We need, like when we're lifting weights, we need to be challenged those last few reps. We need to be tired afterwards. I just taught a workout for Unlimited yesterday and said, if you can do like an entire workout, or if you can lift a weight and get through 50 reps thinking about your to-do list, and you suddenly think, oh, I guess I'm done. It's not heavy enough. It's just not when we want to build muscle mass, when we want to keep our bone density, when we want all of these things as aging women especially, we need to be challenging ourselves at least a couple times a week. So I am committed to that, which means I need to be committed to muscle recovery as well. And again, your muscle recovery might be different than mine. Mine is fairly extreme because of what I deal with and the chronic inflammation I deal with sometimes. But I'm committed to it. And so I want to share it with you, and I want to share some ideas. Again, if you're not quite to the level I am, but you're saying to yourself, yeah, I actually need to really make sure I have this chronic shoulder issue that I've dealt with, or I have this, or, I have arthritis. I need to watch that. If you have anything like that, hopefully some of these tips can help you as well as you continue to stay in those workouts, to want to stay strong, to keep adding strength and muscle mass, but also do it in a really helpful way that supports your body. So I think the number one thing that we can all do to help with muscle recovery is to have a really intentional workout plan or workout schedule. Okay, I don't mean that you know every single day what you're going to do 2 weeks ahead of time. I mean that you are intentional about your workout schedule. That's actually the number one thing that you can do to help with muscle recovery. So what we talked about earlier, meaning that you are giving your muscles, specific muscles, a rest in between work days. That's why we say that, we do, in Unlimited at least, we do leg day on Monday, we do arm day Wednesday, and those are the days that we're doing our heavier weights. And so by doing leg day on Monday with weights, I'm not having everyone do a leg workout with weights the next day again. Like we're not working the exact same muscle group in the same way 2 days in a row, because we need to let that muscle group rest. We don't need to necessarily have our whole body rest. Again, that's individual. Maybe you do if you need a rest. But the way you make your workout schedule is intentional so that you are allowing muscle groups to rest. So I try to lift weights, like I said, at least twice a week. Those are like my heavier days. And they tend to be full body. One might be a little more leg focused. One might be a little more arm focused, but sometimes they're full body. And those are always at least a day apart. Like for me, they're Monday and Wednesday because it works out for my schedule to do them those days. And then a lot of times I'll throw in weights one more day. But knowing my body, it's not always kind of that heavier day like at the gym. It might be a Pilates with lighter weights at home, or it might be a resistance band or something like that. So I know enough to switch it up so that I am letting muscle groups rest. I also kind of will throw my cardio in between those, or I'll throw a Pilates workout in between those. So having a really intentional schedule is really the best thing you can do. It also means that you are not working out one time a week and expecting yourself to respond really well to it. So let's talk about like weekend warriors, right? Is that common term where you don't do anything during the week. And then on the weekend you say, oh, I want to get outside and do everything I possibly can. Or, oh my gosh, I have to do yard work all day long on Saturday, even though I don't usually work out ever, don't ever move. – That is a recipe for disaster, because you haven't done anything to prepare your body in the meantime for these big activities that you want to do. So it's inevitable that you will get sore. And same if you just say, I haven't worked out in 2 weeks, but I'm going to go in unlimited, or I'm going to go on Jessica's YouTube channel and I'm going to pick the hardest workout I can because I haven't done anything. So I need a big bang for my buck. Well, inevitably you're going to get really sore because your muscles have no prep for that. And so they're going to break down and you're going to get so sore that you're not going to want to do anything again for 2 weeks. It is better to do a lower level workout more consistently. I would rather for every single person to do 10 minutes every day than to do 45 minutes once a week. Like it is just, we know from research, we just know across the board that that is a healthier place to be. So that place too, like if you're thinking of your workout schedule, make sure that you're not just doing one thing a week. And I'm not telling you to just add and add and add. I mean, maybe you need to cut back on time, but add consistency because it's going to allow your body to get used to movement so that when you do add more, you won't be as sore. So really think about that workout schedule intentionally. And that's really the best thing that you can do to help with your muscle recovery. And I know I've mentioned Pilates, and I don't want to say that that can't be an intensive workout. It definitely can. I mean, I have taken more Pilates classes in my life than I can count, obviously, and workshops and everything. And I have hosted Pilates festivals and taken, 6 classes in 2 days. And then I don't want to do Pilates for a week because my body's just worn down from even the movement. Like I can't roll anymore. I can't articulate my spine anymore. It's just too much. So that's why we cross train. And in those situations, I will absolutely take a Pilates break and do some weights instead, go on a long walk, and then add Pilates back in. So you can do this with any kind of workout. And I think it's important, not only physically, but really mentally, to break things up during the week too, to make sure you're cross-training, make sure you're doing different types of workouts. And it's really the best way to help your muscle recovery. And the second thing that we can all be doing, so these first few really apply to every single person, even if you think, I respond great to every workout. I'm totally fine. I have no problems like you're mentioning. That is wonderful. And also make sure you're doing these first 2 things because it will help you prevent injury in the future. So the first is having that kind of intentional schedule. And the second thing is just checking in that you're keeping yourself in a really overall mental and physical state that is a healthy place to be. So when I look back on why did that one workout in June? I know it was a little heavier, but it wasn't crazy by any means. Like, why did that cause it? And it's easy for us to say, and I see so many clients like this who just blame it on the workout and say, I just can't lift weights because that really set me off. I just can't do legs. I can't do that squat because that was so bad. Or Jessica, I can't do that. I can't add the weights like you did because it just was so sore. And when I look back, it'd be easy for me to blame that workout and then go to that place. But I know it wasn't the workout because I have to look deeper. The workout was maybe like what did the final trigger for it, but I was sleep deprived, majorly sleep deprived. I was still really in recovery from my surgery, even though it was 6 months before, and I was doing what I was allowed from my doctor. I didn't have the reserves I really needed. I mean, I was, my immune system was suppressed and I was exhausted and all of those things. I wasn't eating great. I probably wasn't hydrated that day. I was running all over the place. And I just said, my nervous system was way fight or flight heightened. And so all of those things allowed this one workout to be like the tipping point to say, now we're in inflammation. Like you're not giving us enough recovery, or you're not giving us all the reserves we need to pull from in order to do this workout. Okay, we're done. Checking out. Here you go. Here's your inflammation. We can't do any more for you. So really the next best thing, a workout schedule, and then also just take care of yourself. Make sure you're sleeping. Make sure you're drinking water. Make sure you're eating protein, that you are feeding those muscles for recovery. Make sure you're getting out in the sun. Make sure you're laughing during the day, that you're taking care of any chronic stress you might have going on. And I know all of that isn't always doable. Like there are places and there are seasons in life where our chronic stress can go crazy. Mine did when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, when we were taking care of my mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. Their seasons of life, or my nervous system, went crazy and really was heightened. And so during those times, just keep it in mind that you need to make sure everything else is really shored up for you so that you have the pillars to rely on so that you can do those harder workouts without injury. So don't feel like you need to stop working out during those times. Just it's that reminder that you need to make sure everything else is in place to support your body for those hard workouts. So those are the two main general things that I do think all of us need to be doing to make sure that we are helping our body heal between workouts, that we're getting the most out of our workouts, that we're building our strength back up, and then we get the results that we want. So let me tell you a few other things that I am doing to really, again, dive into this muscle recovery and make sure that my body is supported as best it can be, knowing that there are times that I do need the extra help and that my body can have that kind of overreactive place when it comes to my workouts. So one is I've been using creatine over the past few months, and I think it does help my recovery. And then also I use what's called BCAAs. It's branched chain amino acids, and I'm going to link below the ones I use. But BCAAs have been shown to help specifically with muscle recovery. And it is just a powder. And I put a scoop in with my electrolyte drink usually after a hard workout. And I really, really think that it has helped quite a bit. I'm going to link the one that I use below because I've tried different kinds. And just keep in mind, if you do look out for BCAAs, the raw form tastes awful. Okay. It tastes horrible. And I can usually down just about anything if I need to. And it tastes horrible. So the one I'm linking has an orange flavor and it's delicious. I'm just telling you that because I didn't think that that was the case. I thought they were all the same, and they are not the same. I don't want you to buy it and waste your money and not be able to have it. So the one I like is an orange flavor. I love it. And I really believe it has helped me a lot, especially with my weightlifting days or my trail running days when I tend to get really sore in my hips. And then also creatine. Creatine is one of the most researched supplements out there, and it is really important, especially for aging women. It helps us build muscle mass, and it really helps with brain health. So that, again, is just a scoop. It is flavorless. I'll put it in my electrolyte sometimes. I'll put it in a protein shake. You can stir it into yogurt. So I'll link that below too. But those are two things that I have used that I do believe are helping. And the next thing that I love that I make sure I add that you guys know about, I've talked all about it, is my red light. So red light, again, has been shown to help with muscle soreness and muscle recovery. So I use that in addition to my PEMF mat. I'll link those below too. I will have a big resource guide for you guys below on all of this stuff. But I use that almost nightly, I would say. My mat especially, because my mat has infrared light and heat built into it, and it just feels so good when my muscles are sore. It helps my nervous system relax. I do it before bed. So I've added that really as a part of inflammation, but also, I've been using those for over a year now to help me heal from surgery, to help with my chronic stress, for so many things. So those are just a really, really, really important part of my overall health routine right now that I'm kind of dedicated to. So I am doing that though for muscle recovery as well. And then I want to talk about ice baths, and it's not because I'm here to recommend them to you. Okay. So just hear that. I'm not necessarily here to recommend them for you, but I talked about them on Instagram this summer when I was doing them, and I got so many comments. So as a physical therapist, we use ice baths quite a bit for inflammation. But you need to know an ice bath is very different than a cold plunge. I am not talking about cold plunges, okay? I have no place to talk to you about cold plunge from. I absolutely know about them. I know the science behind them. I also don't do them myself. So I'm not talking about a cold plunge. A cold plunge is where you get in freezing cold water, up to your neck, like your whole body is in the cold plunge. An ice bath is very specific for a body part, and you only do it like 3 to 5 minutes, and it can help decrease inflammation. You have to make sure that you do not have any health concerns around cold. If you do, just don't do it, okay? No problem, just don't do it. But for me, what I would do is I put ice in the bathtub, because my problem was it was the summer and I wanted to still do trail runs. Where we moved to a new place. It's gorgeous trails. Trail runs make me so happy. I was really trying to find a way to keep doing some of the movement I wanted to do without pushing myself too hard. And so I was willing to do the ice bath. So I put, after my runs, like maybe just once a week, maybe twice a week, ice into the bathtub. And then I would only fill the bathtub with maybe 6 inches of water. Okay, not very much. And then I would lower down into it so that it was really just covering like my legs. That's it. So I would have my legs straight out in front of me. I just wore a bikini when I did it. The water did not come up past my hips, and I would sit for 3 to 5 minutes. And I did that right after my workout. And I do believe that helped as well. That's more kind of short term. So I feel like the creatine really and the BCAAs and the red light, like those are kind of long-term things getting into my system that are helping. The ice bath was really kind of that short-term solution, trying to help in the middle of inflammation to decrease any soreness I might feel after a workout. So I wanted to bring that up because I know some people have asked, and I do therapeutically see a benefit sometimes. I don't think it is for everyone, and I definitely don't think everyone needs to do it, but I did want to bring it up because it helped me kind of get through that time, that kind of short period. And then finally, I want to address kind of this idea of a warm up or a cool down, which can definitely help. I'm always hesitant to tell people you have to do a warm up and you have to do a cool down, because I think it can feel like a barrier to movement if people think, oh my gosh, well now I have to add a warm up. Well, now I have to add a cool down, and I have to add this, and I have to add this. It tends to be this barrier that just shuts us down from exercising at all, because it adds time, it adds complication. We feel like we have to. So in Unlimited and on YouTube, the workouts I teach tend to have a warm-up built into them. Like, I do not tell people it's required that you do a warm-up, because I don't think it necessarily is for the workouts that I teach, okay? Same with the cool down. So that is the first thing that I want to say. Second thing is, it can be beneficial. Again, you'll have to check in with your body, gain information, but if you have the time, like for me, doing a walk before I lift weights is really helpful. And whether that's for my body, whether that's for my mind to prepare myself, whether it kind of helps my nervous system calm down so I'm more present in my body, so I'm more intentional about how I move. I don't know. I think it's all of those things combined. But if I just walk, whether it's on the treadmill or whether it's outside, for 10 minutes before a workout, or even sometimes 10 minutes after, I find it lets everything kind of settle more into my body. That's the only way I can explain it, is it kind of just lets it all settle. It kind of feels to me like it lets my joints and my muscles and everything kind of settle back into where they're supposed to be. I do better with that than really, like that day I told you about, that I ran out of the car. I had a short amount of time. I jumped right into the weights. I did 20 minutes, jumped right back into the car sweaty, and ran to an appointment. Like, that can be efficient, but I think at this age, at this point with my body, I needed probably 10 minutes before or after to have that settling place. And really, I think it has to do with, more than anything, my nervous system just saying, oh, here we are. Yeah, it's workout time. Let me get into my body. Let me get out of my brain. Let me get out of this to-do list. Let me take a deep breath. Okay, now I'm ready. Like, that is where I see the benefit for myself, if I'm really honest about it. And the same thing on these trail runs that I talk about. I walk for the first 15 minutes at least. And it's at that point that I decide if my body even wants to run, or if I'm going to keep hiking, or if I'm going to keep walking, or what I'm going to do. But I find at this point in life, I really need those first 15 minutes when I'm outside just to see how I feel. So I wanted to bring that up to say I think that can be an important part. I do not think it's required for everyone. So I don't want you to add that stress onto your limited time already. But just check in with yourself. If you need to cut 5 minutes from your weightlifting workout because you feel that heightened nervous system, or you feel like you're not kind of aware of what you're doing, so you need that extra 5 minutes just to walk or stretch, give your body that. Like, check in, see what you need so that you can really enjoy your workouts and feel encouraged by them. And that is everything that I can tell you about muscle recovery. Thank you for letting me just talk it out. I feel like I really talked out a lot about my experience, and I do think it probably is unique, but at the same time, I thought I was alone in this for a long time. Like I told you, I thought I was like the strange, weird one, that none of this had ever happened to anyone else, until I realized it kind of fit into a pattern of many of us out there. So possibly by me sharing, you're saying to yourself, oh no, that's me too. That's me too. That makes sense to me. So I always like to be here to make sure that anyone out there feels like they are not alone, that you definitely have a way to listen to your body, and you need to listen to her. You just really do. You need to listen to your body because it will give you information, but also realize the information isn't always accurate. So you need to dig a little deeper. Just because you're sore after a workout doesn't mean it was a bad workout, right? You have to dig a little deeper. Ask yourself more questions. Be willing to learn. Be willing to listen. Be willing to make changes. Be willing to put the effort in. And there's so much that we can do moving forward. Like, that's the key. It should feel like, yes, now I have tools. Now I have tools. Now I feel empowered to make the decisions that are right for me. And that's what I always hope to bring you here on the podcast and on YouTube and in Unlimited and anywhere that you find me. So thanks again for being here. Check out the links below in the description of the podcast. I will have them all there. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today on Meet Your Body. If you have a moment, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast, as it helps us tremendously. For more resources and workouts, you can visit my website, jessicavallantpilates.com, or find me on YouTube or Instagram at Jessica Vallant Pilates.